AITA for telling my husband's family the real reason we can't have kids? For 3 years, I let everyone believe I was the problem. My husband's family never said it outright, but every holiday dinner was the same quiet comments about fertility treatments, advice about relaxing, and sympathy that always felt like pity. I smiled through it, pretending it didn't sting, because my husband, Mark, had asked me to. He said it was easier if we didn't tell anyone the truth, that he was the one who couldn't have children. When we first found out, I held him while he cried. The doctor had said the words infertility due to low sperm count, so gently it almost felt kind, but nothing could soften the blow. Mark spiraled for months, angry, ashamed, and distant. I told him it didn't matter, that we could adopt or use a donor, but he wasn't ready to face it. So when his mom started hinting about grandkids, he begged me to let them assume it was me. "They'll pity you, not me," he said. "And I can't handle being the disappointment." I loved him, so I agreed. At first, it didn't seem like a big deal. I figured people would stop asking eventually. But they didn't. Every family gathering became a performance. His sisters whispered about how I waited too long to start trying. His aunt told me to see her friend's fertility specialist. His mom would pat my hand and say, "You're still a woman even if motherhood isn't in your future." Mark would sit there silently, sipping his drink, letting me take every hit. The longer it went on, the heavier it got. It wasn't just that they pitied me, it was that they blamed me. When his cousin announced her pregnancy, his mom hugged her and then turned to me with that sad, tight smile, as if to say, "See what you'll never give us?" I started dreading every visit. When I told Mark we needed to correct the lie, he said it would humiliate him, that it wasn't worth it. So I kept quiet, convincing myself that love meant protecting his ego. But love built on silence has an expiration date. It came sooner than I thought. Last month, during his sister's baby shower, his mother made a toast, a long, emotional speech about the blessing of fertility and how some couples just aren't meant for children. Then she looked straight at me. People laughed awkwardly, not realizing the cruelty. Mark didn't say a word. He just looked down at his plate. Something inside me broke right then. I'd protected him for years, but he wouldn't protect me for 5 minutes. That night, the silence between us was louder than the party music had been. I tried to keep calm, but the words burned in my chest until I couldn't hold them anymore. I asked him why he let his mom humiliate me like that again. He said I was overreacting, that she didn't mean it like that I shouldn't make a scene. That phrase, "make a scene," shattered whatever restraint I had left. I told him I'd spent 3 years letting people believe I was broken, carrying a shame that wasn't mine, all because he didn't have the courage to tell the truth. He just stared at me, jaw tight, like I'd slapped him. He said I was being cruel, that I didn't understand what it felt like to lose his manhood. Maybe he was right, I didn't. But I knew what it felt like to lose my dignity. I told him that if he couldn't defend me, I'd do it myself. He warned me not to embarrass him, which was the final straw. A week later, we went to his parents' house for dinner. It was the same routine, his mom asking about treatments, his sisters exchanging sympathetic glances. I'd rehearsed what I wanted to say 100 times, but when the moment came, it still felt like stepping off a cliff. His mom said something like, "You should really see a specialist before it's too late, dear." And I said, calmly, "I have. I'm perfectly healthy. Mark's the reason we can't have kids." You could hear the fork drop onto her plate. The room froze. Mark's face went white, then red. His mom blinked like she'd misheard. "What do you mean?" she asked. I repeated it, word for word, clear and steady. "Mark is infertile. We've known for 3 years." He tried to laugh it off, but it was too late. His sisters stared, his dad looked away, and his mom's expression shifted from shock to pity, not for him, but for herself. I didn't stay to watch it play out. I stood up, thanked them for dinner, and left. I could hear Mark calling my name behind me, but I didn't turn back. I sat in the car afterward, shaking not from guilt, but from relief. For the first time in years, the truth was out. When he came home later, he was livid. He said I'd emasculated him, ruined his relationship with his family, and made him a joke. I told him the only joke was the life we'd been living, me pretending to be defective, him pretending to be brave. He said he'd never forgive me. I told him I'd already spent too long forgiving his silence. That was 2 weeks ago. He's been staying with a friend since. His family hasn't reached out to me directly, but I know they've called him constantly. I heard through his sister that his mom cried for days, saying she wished she'd never asked. Funny how the truth only hurts when it's inconvenient. It's been 3 weeks since that dinner, and I still replay it in my head, the silence, the shock, the way Mark's mother's face twisted when she realized the truth she'd been so comfortable blaming me for. I should feel vindicated, but mostly I just feel tired. There's this strange emptiness that comes after finally saying what you've buried for too long. It's not joy. It's not regret. It's just quiet. Mark still hasn't moved back home. He texted me once, a single message that said, "You destroyed my life." I stared at it for a long time before replying no. "I stopped letting you destroy mine." He didn't answer. I think, deep down, he knows I'm right, but pride is a stubborn thing. It's easier to be angry than to admit you built your identity on a lie someone else had to live with. His sisters eventually reached out. One of them apologized for the way they'd treated me, said they never realized how much their comments hurt. The other one still refuses to talk to me, says I should have protected him better. I guess some people need a villain to make sense of their discomfort, and I'm fine being that if it means the truth is finally free. His mom hasn't called, but she sent a text through my mother saying she understands now. I don't know if that's forgiveness or damage control, but either way, I'm done performing for their approval. The weirdest part is how much lighter my life feels. For years, I couldn't look in the mirror without feeling defective. I'd internalized every pitying glance, every offhand remark about trying harder. It's like I wore a label that said broken, and now, suddenly, it's gone. But I can't deny that it came at a cost. Sometimes I lie awake wondering if I could have handled it differently, waited until he was ready, eased his family into the truth. But then I remember his silence at that baby shower, how he let me stand there as the punchline. I gave him years to be ready. He gave me nothing but humiliation in return. People online would probably call me heartless for exposing him like that. Maybe they're right. Maybe there was a gentler way. But I'm done sacrificing myself for someone else's comfort. I didn't tell the truth to hurt him. I told it to stop hurting myself. Marriage is supposed to be a partnership, not a performance. And if honesty makes me the villain in his story, then maybe that's better than being the ghost of a woman who kept her mouth shut for love. So, ATA for telling his family the truth? Maybe. But after 3 years of being everyone's pity project, I think I've finally earned the right to stop apologizing for existing. ATA for exposing my brother's fake engagement because he used it to get money from our parents? My brother has always been the golden child, charming, impulsive, and somehow immune to consequences. I'm the opposite, the responsible one, the planner, the one who cleans up after his messes. It's been that way since childhood. When we grew up, he coasted through jobs while I built a career. He borrowed money, crashed cars, made promises he never kept. Still, my parents adored him. Every mistake was just a phase. I told myself it wasn't my business. But this time, he didn't just hurt himself, he manipulated the people I love most. It started last year when he called out of nowhere to say he was engaged. I was shocked. He'd only been dating his girlfriend, Tara, for a few months and no one had even met her. He said they wanted a small wedding, something intimate, and that he was hoping Mom and Dad could help out a bit. My parents were thrilled. Mom cried on the phone. Dad immediately started talking about hosting the ceremony at their lake house. They wired him $15,000 within a week to help with deposits and plans. I thought it was rushed, but I kept quiet. After all, if he was finally settling down, maybe this was his turning point. But as the months passed, something felt off. No save the dates, no engagement photos, not even a social media post. Whenever Mom asked for updates, he had excuses. Tara was shy, or they were still deciding on venues. He started dodging questions about meeting her. Then, one day, Mom mentioned how strange it was that Tara didn't even have an online presence. That got my attention. Out of curiosity, I did some digging. No one named Tara worked at the company he claimed she did. There were no mutual connections, no photos, nothing. When I confronted him, he exploded. Said I was spying, that I never wanted him to be happy. That would have been the end of it, except a week later, my parents called crying. They'd just transferred another $10,000. He told them Tara had been diagnosed with a rare illness, and they needed help covering her medical bills before the wedding. Something in me snapped. I asked him directly if any of it was true. He swore on his life it was. But when I asked for hospital information, he couldn't share it for privacy reasons. That's when I knew. He wasn't engaged. There was no Tara. He was scamming our parents. I couldn't just watch it happen. So I started gathering proof, bank transfers, text screenshots, inconsistencies in his stories. I even found out he'd used a stock photo of a random woman from Instagram to show Mom who Tara was. My hands were shaking when I realized how deep his lies went. I wanted to protect my parents, but exposing him would destroy their trust completely. The question was, who would I be protecting if I stayed silent? Him or them? I barely slept that night, replaying every conversation we'd ever had. My brother had always been reckless, but I never thought he'd cross into full-blown fraud. Still, I hesitated. If I exposed him, my parents would be crushed. They'd raised him like he could do no wrong, and I'd be the one to shatter that illusion. But every day I waited, he kept bleeding them dry. The next morning, Mom called me again, her voice trembling. She said my brother had asked for another $5,000, claiming Tara's treatment was taking a turn for the worse. That was it. I told her I'd look into it myself, pretending I just wanted to help. She sounded relieved, said I was being such a good sister. That made it hurt even more. I started digging deeper. I called the hospital he claimed Tara was admitted to. They had no record of her. I checked the wedding planner he'd mentioned, no booking under his name. Then, out of pure desperation, I contacted one of his old roommates. He told me my brother had been bragging about a big payout coming soon. It was enough. I printed everything out, every text, every fake invoice, every lie, and drove straight to my parents' house. My heart felt like it was breaking with every mile. When I got there, my brother was already visiting. He was sitting at the kitchen table, laughing, eating Mom's cooking like he hadn't just conned her out of half her savings. I dropped the folder on the table. The laughter stopped. My mom looked confused, my dad suspicious, and my brother, he went pale. I told them everything. That there was no Tara. No engagement. No illness. Just a long, calculated scam. My voice shook the whole time, but I didn't stop. When I finished, my mom's hands were trembling so hard her spoon clattered onto the floor. My dad didn't say a word, he just stared at my brother like he was trying to recognize the son he thought he knew. My brother tried to deny it at first, saying I didn't understand, that it got out of hand. Then he admitted it. Said he'd planned to pay them back eventually, that he just needed time. My mom burst into tears. My dad told him to get out. My brother begged, saying he'd been desperate, that I'd ruined everything by making it public. I told him he'd done that himself. I wanted to feel satisfaction, but all I felt was sick. Watching my parents break like that, watching their favorite child turn into a stranger, it didn't feel like justice. It felt like grief. After he left, my parents sat in silence. My mom finally whispered, "You could have told us privately." I didn't know how to explain that there was no private way to expose a lie this big. My dad said I'd done the right thing, but the way his voice cracked made it sound more like defeat than gratitude. I left that night feeling like I'd burned down my own house just to stop the rot spreading inside it. It's been 2 months since that day, and the house still feels different every time I visit. My mom barely speaks above a whisper now. My dad looks older, like the disappointment carved something out of him he can't get back. They cut off my brother financially, at least, that's what they said. But last week, I noticed a new deposit labeled loan repayment on their bank statement when I was helping them organize bills. My stomach twisted. They were still sending him money, probably convincing themselves it was temporary, that he'd learned his lesson. I haven't spoken to my brother since the confrontation, but he's reached out plenty, texts, voicemails, all of them manipulative in their own way. First came the guilt. You made Mom cry every night. Then came the anger. You wanted to ruin me because you've always been jealous. And finally, the plea. Please help me fix this. I don't have anyone else. Every message felt like reopening a wound. I never replied. There's nothing left to say to someone who only feels sorry when they're caught. The fallout with my parents has been worse than I expected. They say they love me, that they're grateful I told the truth, but I can see it in their eyes. They wish I hadn't. The truth might have saved their money, but it broke their illusion. They've started talking about my brother in the past tense, like he's gone but not dead. It's eerie, hearing my mom say things like, "He used to be such a good boy." I wonder if she's talking to me or herself. I know I did the right thing logically, but emotionally, it feels like betrayal. I didn't just expose my brother. I exposed the fragile fantasy that held our family together, that love could fix him, that enabling wasn't destruction. The irony is, now they treat me with this uneasy gratitude, like I'm both their savior and their executioner. They still set a place for him at the dinner table sometimes, just in case. The worst part? Sometimes I miss him too. Not the liar, but the version of him that made us laugh, who defended me in school fights, who swore we'd always have each other's backs. But maybe that brother never existed. Maybe he was just another story he told to survive. People online would probably say I did the right thing, that exposing a scammer is brave. But sitting in that quiet kitchen now, watching my parents flinch whenever his name comes up, I don't feel brave. I feel like I've torn out a piece of my family that won't grow back. So, ATA for exposing him? Maybe not. But sometimes doing the right thing doesn't feel right at all. It just feels lonely. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you enjoyed the story. See you in the next one.